Hello, good morning and a very warm welcome to Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And joining me this morning is a full house. We have Bandula Jayasekara, senior journalist, former diplomat. Good morning to you, Bandula.
Good morning for us.
And we'll talk about yesterday a little bit later on, Bandula. And also joining us is the eminent surgeon, Dr. Maya Gunasekara. With all his involvement in rugby and so on. Good morning, and thank you for being on our show. And we also have Krishmal Warnasurya, attorney at law, and many other things too. However, good morning, Krishmal.
Good morning, Farad. Good to be.
And Sri Lanka woke up this morning to all the gory details of what happened at Ward Place yesterday. Disgraceful? Awful? What do you think from a legal perspective, Krishmal?
Well, these things happen in the everyday life of a country. I think we as a country need to come out of it, but I'm sure the good doctor will enlighten us more. There's more medicine involved than in law.
Well, they've only added to the almost scarce resources in terms of medical but don't you think that some of these things must have been instigated? I get the feeling that they may well be. How possible is that, do you think, Mandela?
No, I mean, we discuss openly. Of course, everybody knows, how JVP, uses students and the unions also. But nevertheless, that's accepted because it's always, recruiting ground, these universities for them. This is what happens. It's always, you could see it's organized because the way, how they were dressed. But nevertheless, I mean, we have to discuss, I'm sure we can discuss with the doctor about this violence. This is my view. But, Maubima says something very interesting. They said the students attack the police and the police attack the students. That's the headline, which is very clear.
Yeah, because you see, the thing is, I stay down Kinsey Road and I have to pass Lipton Circus at least 2-3 times a day.
Right.
And you see so many protests.
Yeah.
You see, it is very important to realize that there are two sides.
Right.
The protesters and of course the peacekeepers, the police.
Right.
The protesters also have a responsibility. They have a right to protest, but it has to be peaceful.
Right.
And it is very unfortunate that the police has used force. Very unfortunate, but the police could have been driven to do that. But also the police have to be more disciplined, not to use that amount of force. And it's very unfortunate, but we have to sort of learn from this and grow out of it.
But forever and a day we're learning and learning.
No, but thing is, if you see the last, if you see the last 6 months, how many protests have been there in Colombo? How many protests? I mean, there were several protests. At least once in 2 weeks in the Lipton Circus, but there had been no violence like this. So the protesters are also responsible for this, because the police they are the peacekeepers. You see, so I think blame has to go to both sides,
but also
not
for
one
us,
side.
I think that we should never allow people to block roads. This is what happens
so
in political parties. They block roads. Let people get about and they let them protest in certain areas that they should not.
Yeah, let's not forget that peaceful protest, like Maya's peaceful protest, is very much a part of democracy. And civil disobedience has always been a part of the lifeblood of a nation, of a country, of building a country, and that is how freedom is inculcated. I mean, if you go even today at Hyde Park in London, so-called height of democracy, you'll see some fellow standing on a soapbox and giving a speech. I mean, that is allowed. So is it in the biggest democracy in the world. But like you say very correctly, in our country, we need to, I think the media also have a role to play in this. We don't need to over-inflate incidents so that we give the idea to the youngsters watching that the more blood you spill, or the more gates you break, or the more stones you throw, you're going to get more news value. You see, we need to be also responsible in what we cover and report, so that the people also get the idea that what we protest is what is important, not how many people we hit or how many people's heads have been broken.
That's true.
Yeah, so we need to get to that culture.
Yeah, because you say it's a very significant point. Now, with all these what has happened and highlights, No, what was the real issue of this protest?
No one knows.
Nobody
No one
knows.
knows.
No one
We
knows.
know that someone ran with the head covered with blood.
Yes,
What-
I think just to put the record right, the students were agitating for the HNDA
Diploma, high
program
diploma.
to be treated, to be restored, or to be made the equivalent of a degree.
But they've been doing this for a long time for us. But I agree with Bandula on this point that these seem to be concerted in some way, so that, you know, every week or 2 weeks we will have some news value from somewhere.
Maybe your party, you were to be a
But it is
I'm not a member of that party.
You want to be a national
I was
member of the
invited-
JVP.
I was invited nationally to go to parliament. I was never a member, nor am I a member of that
But
party.
I think we need to really almost fairly and squarely lay the blame on the JVP, because it's a fertile breeding ground for the type of for their membership, if you like.
Not that I'm trying to defend JP, but then all of us, most of us in universities in Sri Lanka. I went to the University of Colombo. I was not a member of the JVP when I was in the University of Colombo, but I also agitated because young blood boils. You know, young blood boils. So I don't know whether there's a political reason behind the agitation. But when you give a small ounce of something to a youngster, and when you're that young and you're looking up and you're rising for democracy and what is right and all that, you tend to go on the road. I have marched on the road. I was never a member of the JVP.
My friend and colleague Farah still does. In different ways.
This brings me almost nicely, now that we have a medical person in our midst. Yesterday in court, the courts have now recognized that mental agony is also a form of torture.
Yeah, we are on our way. Yeah, we are on our way to recognizing it for us.
Yes.
In fact, it is a very healthy. Good that you brought it up. Yesterday, the lordships of the Supreme Court by a majority decision. The crux of the story very quickly, because there was a boy killed, 20-year-old youth, prime of his youth, killed about 4.5 years ago. Nothing was being done by the police. You know, today we are talking of the police not doing their duty, the Attorney General doing their duty. So. Subsequently, since there was nothing being done by the police, they complained to the IGP. Nothing was done. They complained to the Attorney General. Nothing was done. 4.5 years this went on. And after 2 years, very sorry state for us, the father died. Because no justice was being done to the son's murder, the father died. Then, yesterday, they were before the Supreme Court, and by a majority decision, the Supreme Court granted leave to proceed on this question whether, you know, up to now we look at torture under the Constitution as going to a police station and hitting someone with a baton or putting something up some crevice. But whether mental agony or the state of mind caused to a family during such an ordeal can also constitute inhuman or degrading treatment under our Constitution, under Article 11. So Supreme Court by a majority decision granted leave to proceed in that case. So I think it's a very healthy move. So ultimately we will have a judgment on this as to whether under our Constitution that mental harassment and duress can also fall under Article 11 of torture and degrading inhuman treatment.
Yeah, but I think the mental agony thing has to be discussed. It has to be taken case by case.
Yes.
You see, because how are you going to draw the line for mental agony?
Yeah.
You know, somebody who is oversensitive can break down.
Right.
Somebody who is not, you know, will take it on the bump.
It's
that-
it's something that you can't measure.
no, you can't measure.
That is
know,
why
it
you
has
must
to
look
be
at the
case
facts of
by-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, case by case, look at the facts. But of course, the danger, of course, is if you bring this, then of course, even for the slightest thing, they can close shop and say, you know, I can't work, I'm, you know,
Mentally
agony,
traumatized.
mentally traumatized. Then, you know, where to draw
No,
the
that's the
line.
other extreme.
So it's
That's the
a
other
very,
extreme.
you know,
That's the
it's a
other
very dangerous thing. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, I tell you, you tell me that you are having a backache, right? All the investigations, MRI, everything is normal, but I cannot say that you don't have. That you can say you are having a headache. All the CTs, MRI, ESR, proteins, everything are normal, but you say I have a headache. You can't dispute it. So you have a headache. I have caused, you know, I have told you something that you construe as insult. You are having a headache, you are thinking about it. Now, if you say that's mental agony, then we are going to,
Yes,
it's
no,
going to be
that's-
entirely
that's why I say
different
now,
ballgame. It's a
that's the
huge
other
problem.
extreme. That's the other extreme.
That's the other
And people
extreme.
will take advantage
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
You know,
But of course,
trauma,
of course, we
physical,
must. But
physical trauma, yes.
Yes.
You know, you can measure it.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm trying to
here
say.
it's a huge problem.
Yeah, but then when it comes to torture and inhuman treatment,
Yes.
I think that goes a bit beyond what we are discussing now. Both, all of us have worked abroad. We know that some people actually use this mental stress now to get leave for 6 months in developed, so-called developed countries.
Yes.
But we don't want to go there.
Yes.
But also on the other side, we should not limit torture to when a policeman actually takes you to a dark cell and hits you and puts an Eslon pipe, and that should not be torture.
Not an Eslon pipe, just a pipe.
Yeah. But what about the mental agony? What about the mental agony masses are going through because of politicians? How about that, Krishna?
And what about the absolute mental agony that the media go through or have gone through for a long time?
Definitely.
And personally, I'm having an even more pronounced agony because our dear Prime Minister, back to him again, is simply unable to satisfy the people's concern on the Treasury bond matter. Instead, we have the Governor of the Central Bank talking about economic policy and so on. But the crux of the matter hasn't been addressed.
Because it's a royal affair.
Is it a royal
For us,
affair?
you can
But
ask
really,
this
the people, I hope these opposition parliamentarians, some of whom at one point were highly critical of that issue, have now joined the ranks of government. I hope they have a conscience and that they will proceed with addressing this very important issue. The losses, in case anyone's interested, is now amounted to over 80 billion rupees. Food for thought. Krishmal, I wanted to ask you this. As a legal man, there's talk of these monies in Dubai or in the Gulf. Apparently, our attempts to have an account frozen was met with a resounding no. What is the process to go and get an account frozen?
Faraz, I do believe that we have got it wrong. We must understand that the matter of freezing someone's funds or any monies in an account is governed by a banker-customer relationship, and it's a banker-customer contract which cannot be breached. There's a privity of that contract between those parties. There's a sanctity of that contract, and particularly a commercial hub like Dubai are not going to breach that contract. You know, it arises out of the contract, and we refer to it as a Tonio duty because it was decided in the case of Tonio that it's a duty of confidentiality that the bank will not divulge those accounts or even the dealings of a customer without express consent of that customer. There is a very limited exception to that. That is when law compels them to do, or the public interest require it to do it.
Right.
Now, we can't. I know with all good intention, His Excellency the President may have given a note to the Sheikh saying, we need this information or whatever. But from what was reported in the press, we have gone with an authority from His Excellency the President and asked for information from
Is it sort of an implied authority? Is it somebody from?
I do not know. I'm
From the
only going
central
on
bank.
what the press reported. But even the almighty king of, say, some land giving a letter to a bank in Dubai, or even to a court for that matter, it's not going to allow, particularly a commercial hub like Dubai, who are going to place a lot of emphasis on the public perception that they have as international bank to give information like that. Then we went to a court. Now, when you go to a court of law, we should have it. Now, what was previously referred to as Mareva injunction is now referred to as Shapiro injunction in banking law, because it was under the case of Shapiro, where the injunctions are granted. Now, there, court will look at whether there is an actual legal duty by that court to give that information. Now, for us to have shown that, we should at least have started an investigation in our own
Locally.
country, or at least ideally have a court order. Ideally have a court order here saying so and so has been either convicted or is suspected. At least we are doing an investigation into these monies which we suspect have been laundered, and therefore we need this information. Now, such a court order would have taken us above that threshold of a Mariva or a Shapiro injunction. But now, without that, with going with just a letter from His Excellency the President or the Head of State, or for the Central Bank for that matter, will not permit a court to give that because they are breaching the bank-customer contract.
So it appears that we've been legally ill-advised. We as in the country.
But the press reported that we had obtained the services of a Dubai law firm. I mean, surely they should have known this law.
On that note, we're going to have to take a short break. Time to earn a bit of money, Krishna. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsline, live from Dawson Street in Colombo. We were talking about the matter of trying to freeze an account in Dubai. So, were we advised? Did we have a good legal team?
Well, the press reported that we have retained the services of a firm of lawyers in Dubai. Now, they ought to have advised us properly. Also, we should, I think for us, also particularly when we are placing Sri Lanka in a public fora like that, we should also have advised ourselves before we went in pursuit of such action as to how we should go about doing it. You know, and also I go back to the public sentiment again. This questions me as to whether, yes, we spoke so much of good governance. I was one of those people who tried to change a regime because I thought it was despotic, it was nepotistic, it was not in the best interests of the country. Now, I as that citizen who did at least some small measure in trying to change that regime, I am now questioning, are we also just going on with our merry governing for another 5 years, giving people a bit of news here and a bit of news there just to show that we are doing something for 5 years until we do our foreign trips and all our parties and enjoy ourselves for 5 years, and then let the other fellows come in, okay, now you all run, now you all take over, we'll go to the opposition, and now there is not even an opposition in part. So I can't see an opposition. I can't see these issues being discussed publicly. You and I, we come to the channel in the morning and
we are the opposition.
We are the opposition.
We are the
I don't know why we don't appear to be taking a more pragmatic approach to doing the things of bringing good governance, bringing the rule of law that we advocated we were going to do. I feel that we are just sitting back and now we come to power. The stupid fools of people voted us in. So now we will now merrily govern you for 5 years and have our own party for 5 years and then go back. I mean, that's what I see.
That's very sad.
Very sad.
Shall we ask the medical man to speak as a member of the public? How do you feel, doctor? Do you feel a change? Are you enjoying this change, or
Are there more patients?
are there more patients?
More patients.
Are they less traumatized now?
No, I am a surgical man,
Yeah.
so there would have been some cardiac patients,
Yeah.
I think, after the change.
Right.
But, I mean, those patients don't come to me.
No.
You know, only surgical patients come to me. So, you see, the thing is, the important thing, I think, everybody is talking about the economy,
Yeah.
right? And, of course, if you put it in, medical terms,
Yeah.
right, comparison.
Yeah.
Where is our economy? I speak to my very good friends, Indrajit Kumaraswamy and then Ajit Nivat Kabral and the others. So it is very difficult to get an answer in the sense, where is our economy? Can we be compared to a patient,
Yeah.
like in the German economy,
Yeah.
who takes blood tests twice a year
Yeah.
and walks around?
Yeah.
Or are we comparing our economy to a patient about to get admitted to a hospital?
Yeah.
Or is our economy a patient in the hospital, in the ward, but not under oxygen? Or are we about to go to the intensive care and be ventilated? Where
Right.
are we? So everybody says that no. You see, we are in the hospital, but not in the intensive care, not being ventilated, but not under intensive treatment, but getting checks in the hospital, not outside getting blood checks. So not good, not too bad, not too good. The rupee might depreciate a bit, but we can't continue to give handouts.
It's over 140.
Yes, it's over 140.
It was only about
130. Yes, but I think this is the answer I get from my good friend is that like we are in the hospital but not in the intensive care.
So you're happy in the hospital.
But
Nice
how-
surroundings.
I think it's a question for the economists. I mean, we all have friends who are economists, but they are a bit concerned. But corrective measures will have to be taken. But I think some strong measures will have to be taken, and because I think you see the economy. Basically, if you talk about the economy, I mean, it's not somebody coming from heaven and putting a formula. People have to work.
Yeah.
You see, we all have to work at least 12 hours a day for 10 years to get the economy right. And then these handouts also must stop. People must realize their responsibilities. All these have to happen, because now I get patients who want to, who go to, young boys who go to Korea. I mean, they come for their medicals, they come for this, that and other. And everybody very proudly says, no sir, you must go to Korea and see even the very old people work from morning till night. I mean, then I tell them, I mean, what the hell are you doing here when you are here?
Right.
You see, so people have to work to get the economy out. So it is the primary responsibility of everybody to put in a fair amount of work every day and, fulfill your personal responsibility without asking for handouts and asking what the government can do. Of course, the government also has a responsibility to put
Structures in place to- for
structures
people
in
to work.
place. Yes.
Krishma, how intensive is the event surrounding avant-garde?
How intensive? I mean,
I just want to ask you. There's different aspects of this.
All right.
One, we have whether Ratna Araksha Lanka were duly authorized by the cabinet to enter into these agreements, i.e. was Ratna Araksha itself, the formation of that, was that duly authorized by the cabinet, and whether the minister and his secretary, both names Rajapaksa, Mahinda and Gota, were they empowered to enter into this arrangement? That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the actions of Ratna Araksha and avant-garde and the contract, and how legitimate is this contract.
Yeah. May I come in on that second angle? Because whatever the cabinet of ministers or then His Excellency the President or his brother may have done, for us we are all governed by law. There is a law in this country, and the law is supreme in this country. We are not in England where there is a royal power above us. The people are supreme. Now the people have given a limited mandate for a government to govern, even if it's a cabinet. So let me come to the second question, which will answer your first question.
Right.
Even if the cabinet had sanctioned this, that contract that gives a monopoly to one company is void in law. I have said this over and over again. No contract can be given to a party to exercise a monopoly in the market. Such a contract is void ab initio. It's dead in the place of its birth. That contract has no validity. Now, my question is, we are attacking Honorable the Attorney General or the police for not taking action, and even this avant-garde or whoever the company that's doing the business. Why is the government not taking steps to annul such a contract, if there is such an illegal contract? Because Ratna Araksha Lanka, apparently even before that the Navy, I mean, I was on your Satana program, we discussed this. Even the Navy before that have done this business. So there is a clause, or there is a provision in the Offensive Weapons Act that allows the Secretary of Defence to give certain provisions that allow a person to do this business, which is when someone comes into the country to have an arms store. Now that have been exploited by even our British marshals who come to the British High Commission. They have used this store. Our Navy has made a lot of money for the government on this business. So it's a legit business. But no one can give a monopoly to a company to only do that now. My question is, why are we not attacking the contract which is illegal on its face? And going after other people? My question is, are we now trying to get that company out of business and give that business to one of our friends? Is the question that arises to me. Because otherwise, why would you keep a monopoly alive that cannot be granted in law?
There's also this issue that apparently in this contract is a cancellation clause, which means that the government, through Ratna Araksha, will have to pay out $20 million to cancel the contract.
Well, we've gone and paid so many billions of dollars all over hedging contracts. I don't agree with it. When our Supreme Court said not to pay, we went and paid, I don't know for what reason. But here, why don't we go back to the point of contract again, and no contract, if the validity of the contract is in question from the point of start, from initio, you no rights flow out of that contract.
Right.
You follow? Even this question
so
of
if
paying
it's bad in law.
if it's bad in law, you see, you and I can't make out a contract to kill Maya, and then if one of us don't go and kill him, we can't sue the other person not killing him because
Don't
the
even
contract
think about
itself
it.
was unlawful. No, what I'm trying to
One of
say
the
is,
finest surgeons this country has got.
no. When you make an illegal contract, if there is a provision in that contract saying if you cancel this contract, you got to pay me this money, there is no validity in that because that contract itself is unlawful.
But I'm told that they will go to arbitration in Singapore.
Well, let them go. We will also go and arbitrate. Why should we be scared of arbitrating if a contract is unlawful?
But for all this thing, that poor Treasury Secretary is going to have to pay out non-existent funds.
Well, is that not better than continuing something that's unlawful in the face of the country? Surely we must stand up for what is right.
But I'm sure the Treasury Secretary can save money from this, your favorite central bank bond.
That's
you
right.
know,
That's
Yeah.
right.
Have a saving.
And anyway, none of us have seen this contract. I think the state or the entity involved.
None of us have seen this
Yes,
contract.
we must. I think there must be public disclosure of the contract.
Yes, but
And because we are all speculating. you
but
know.
a upright member of the public has arranged for a copy, a purported copy, okay, to be delivered to me.
Excellent.
And I found it in my letterbox.
Very good. So let's look at it.
Yes,
and discuss
I
it.
shall arrange for you to have a copy of a copy.
But don't ever hatch a Thomian conspiracy against this
There's an
royalist.
early Sanskrit.
Yeah, no, the dear Prime Minister school.
So what should we do? What should, very, very quickly, because we're running out of time, what should the Ministry of Defence do?
I think the Ministry of Defence must look at the authority that's been granted previously to do this, conduct this business, and see in law can that be sustained. If it can't be, there is nothing holding the ministry from cancelling it. Also, public spirited individuals in this country have a right to go before the highest courts of this land and challenge it. I've said this before.
And why isn't hasn't anybody's conscience been aroused sufficiently?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know why someone is not. As a lawyer, I can't espouse litigation in public.
No.
It's ethically bound. But I'm saying, remember there was a former head of state who had to answer after her tenure of office in the Supreme Court and on several issues. And so even if you're head of state, there is no immunity from the highest court of the land. Because why? It's a people's power that's being exercised. The people are supreme in this country.
Good. On that note, it's been a very exciting morning. No chance for the cholesterol to settle. So I'm going to have to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Krishman. And thank you, Doctor, for extending your stay this morning. Thank you very much. And Bandana, thank you very much.
Thank you, Faraz.
For your presence. And I'll just say very quickly, yesterday we mentioned that Nishanta Wickramasinghe was missing. He's now told the Presidential Commission that he's abroad, so there's no need for us to put his photograph on and engage the public.
Flying
in
Sri
search.
Lankan, I suppose.
However, once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results. On that note, I wish you a very good morning. Do take care.